The U.S. Secret Service is facing a new sexual misconduct scandal. Last year, a dozen employees were caught up in a prostitution case in Colombia. This morning, two agents on President Obama's security detail are under investigation after an incident in Washington. One of them, a senior supervisor, has been reassigned.
The new investigation focuses on an encounter at the Hay Adams Hotel. It is a Washington landmark next to the White House. Senior correspondent John Miller is here. John, good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me how you see and what you have learned about this incident and how big a story it is.
So this incident is not a big story. The reason we're talking about it in terms of news is it violates three basic principles of the Secret Service. Number one is don't do anything to embarrass the president of the White House. Number two is don't do anything to embarrass the service. And number three is while you're waiting for the Inspector General's report on whether the Secret Service has a boys' club culture, it would be good to not have incidents like this land in the paper.
So if you're a Secret Service agent or someone like that and you have a gun and you have, it's legal for you to carry a gun and you have an encounter with a woman in a hotel room, what are you supposed to do with the gun?
Well, there's nothing in the rule book about that. But to back up through the story here, so a Secret Service agent who's a supervisor on the president's protective detail, the most elite unit in that organization, meets a woman in a bar that is across the park from the White House, ends up late that night up in her hotel room. This starts
off duty or on duty?
Off duty. Okay. This starts off as a conversation about, you've had too much to drink, maybe I'm not good to drive home, well, you can stay up here. At some point during the night, he wakes up, there's a conversation with the woman. Now here's the bit with the gun. If you've been drinking or you're going to be asleep and you're with someone you don't know that well, the first thing you do is you don't want them waking up and finding a loaded gun. You drop the magazine out, you remove the round from the chamber. Well, apparently, at some point very late that night in the early morning, she asks him to leave to go home. He gets halfway out of the hotel and realizes he left the bullet from the chamber in the room and goes back to get it.
I know you say it.
Hang on. Okay. He enlists the help of the hotel people and says, can you get into this room and recover this? Mm-hmm. The next day, apparently, she brings it to the front desk and says, this guy left this. And it ends up back in the hands of the Secret Service, who then has this bullet and has to back through the story and say, how did this get there? Who does it belong to? And what did this involve?
Well, he's been suspended by his own Secret Service, so they think it's a big enough deal.
I don't think he's been suspended. He's been transferred to the Intelligence Division off the president's detail. And right now they're looking into whether this was misconduct or whether this was just embarrassing.
Okay, the Inspector General's report is due out any time now, perhaps within weeks, about the sex scandal that happened in Cartagena. What do we expect from that report?
There's a draft of that report floating around, and I think as people look at it, it's probably not as bad as they thought. One of the issues here, because I think what it says is that there's nothing inbred into the Secret Service culture that says this is okay, but it does talk about, the pressures that people are under who travel around the world, work long hours, end up in hotels, and so on.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.